Hello, computer scientists. We have our folders created on our desktop. Now we're going to kind of go in and learn a little bit about images themselves, all right, between maybe a JPEG and a PNG and those types of things and what we're going to be looking at. So I'm going to open this up, and as you notice, I have then changed the name of my folder from Sprite to Pumpkin Sprite. This is going to be obviously a pumpkin that I'm going to be editing in a program called GIMP, and we'll get to that very shortly in the next tutorials. But you may have multiple different sprites throughout your application or your video game, and so you're going to want to be very organized. So I renamed mine from Sprite to Pumpkin Sprite. And I'm going to go ahead and open that up, and I then went and got a raw image of a pumpkin. All right, and I found this image off of, and I've given you 3 or 4 free websites that you can go out and get royalty-free images that they say, hey, go ahead and use our images in your projects and stuff like that. And I simply typed in pumpkin and did a small search and looked through, and I found that pumpkin there. When I click on it, you guys, I actually then went to my free download, and then I see that I have the image here. I right click on it and I choose Save Image As, and then I go ahead and put it into the correct folder, and I actually renamed mine Pumpkin instead of Autumn Decoration Fall. But you guys can figure out how to do this. Go to your desktop. I've got my see-through. I've got my pumpkin sprite, and this is going to be the raw. This is going in the raw folder. And again, I've already named mine Pumpkin, and so I'm going to leave that there. And I'm just going to drag this now off the screen if my mouse will cooperate. So here's my image that I have. Again, I'm going to go ahead and close this image and look at some of the properties of this. Now, I have set mine up so I can see the dimensions, its size, bit depth, and type. If you don't see those, put your mouse up here on the top, kind of right here. Right click, and then you can choose. If you wanted to add the date, which I don't want, I'm going to take the date off of there. But if you want to add something like that, you can. Now, if you don't see everything, for example, this bit depth, you guys, was not here. Well, you have more options, and there's a lot. And you can actually find your bit depth. Now, you don't see it here anymore because I've actually brought it to this location by getting the bit depth. All right, you guys, let's take a look at it. First of all, obviously, this is the file name, and I renamed it. And I'm going to ask you guys to rename your files too. Please do not have any 1257XK743 kind of image. Please rename your image. Let's look at its dimensions. All right, I'm going to drag this over to this location right here, and I'm going to bring over my images information that I simply got off the internet. Let me do some resizing real quick. I'm holding my Windows key down with the right arrow press on the keyboard. And its resolution. What does it refer to? It refers to the number of pixels in an image. Resolution is sometimes identified by the width and the height of an image, as well as the total number of pixels in an image. For example, an image that is 2048 pixels wide by 1536 pixels high, it contains, you multiply those two, 3.145728 million pixels, or 3.1 megapixels. You may have heard of megapixels when you guys are asking your friends, hey, that's a cool camera. How many megapixels is it? Or if you're looking at a new phone or something like that, you're checking out the camera, a lot of times they look at the megapixels, and you can simply then do some math in order to figure out kind of its resolution that it will take those pictures at. Let's do some math real quick. I'm going to pull up my calculator here, you guys, and I have dimensions. Again, they start with the width, and this is always the height. The width is always first, and then your height. So I'm going to go ahead and use my keypad on my keyboard. 5,616 times 3,744, and I'm going to press my enter key, and this picture is 21 million pixels in size, you guys. And so we don't say, hey, how many pixels is your camera? My camera is 21 million pixels. No, you would say that you have a 21 megapixel camera. And so that's how to figure that out there. All right, you guys. So let's go ahead. I'm going to close that. That's a little bit about our resolution. Let's look at our size. All right, and let me bring over my handy dandy a little bit of information here. And let me go ahead and resize this real quick. Press the wrong key on the keyboard. All right, so several popular file formats are described below. Each pixel, you guys, typically consists of 8 bits, one for black and white, for a black image. Now, a lot of times we're looking at colored images. Color images, you guys, have 24 bits, all right? 3 bytes for a color image, 1 byte for red, 1 byte for green, and 1 byte for blue. How many bits are in 1 byte? Well, there's 8 bits in 1 byte of information. So looking at our size and our bit depth here, you can see that this JPEG file, you guys, is using the RGB, the red, green, blue. It has 8 bits for red, 8 bits for green, and 8 bits for blue. You add those 8 plus 8 plus 8, 24 bits of data. All right, and again, though, within those, we have 3 bytes, because there are 8 bits in 1 byte. All right, so with that said, you guys, we can figure out, you guys, a little bit of information about the file size, because this says we have 775 kilobytes. All right, so we can bring over a simple calculator here. Let me bring this down and readjust it. So if we have 775 kilobytes, how many bytes are in that? Let's take a look. 775. We have 775,000 bytes of data. All right, and we know that in each byte, you guys, there are 8 bits of data. So you can even probably do some more math to figure out how many bits are in that. Take this number and multiply it by 8. It's even going to get bigger. Every time you add a byte to a picture or anything, you've increased the file size. All right, maybe it takes people longer time to download. Maybe you have a bunch of images on a web page, or in our case, on our application. The bigger the file size, it's going to take longer for those programs to load, to download those images and stuff like that. So that's one of the things that we're really going to concentrate in this project, is to lower our file size. And again, last but not least, we have our JPEG. There's 2 popular formats with images, a JPEG or a PNG file. What's happening with the JPEG, again, we only are using red, green, and blue. Let me show you something real quick. I'm going to go back to my edited. These are some edited images that I did in GIMP, and you'll get to this part. And these are PNG files. And the reason they're PNG is because we added what's called an alpha channel. We changed some things to transparency. Look it, we've added 8 bits to it, 1 byte of data, if you will. 8 bits, so we were at 24 with a JPEG, 24 plus 8, 32. We got RGB, red, green, blue, and then our last one is our alpha channel, adding 8 more bits of data. So again, when you go to your PNGs, your file sizes are going to be a little bit bigger. However, you guys, are going to decrease those with doing a little compression. And again, I'll show you how to do that in our project. So again, that's a little bit of information. You can see that our pictures have gotten a little smaller in our dimensions, and I got a few different sizes, and I'll explain those later in our projects. But let me go ahead and open this PNG, and that's a very small image. This is 75 pixels. And this is 100 pixels if you look in the upper left hand corner at my file names, and then this is 150. Now again, the reason we are going to compress these is, think if you're using a tablet, think if you're using a phone. Do you need a picture? Let's try to do this. Do you need a picture really that big on your phone? No, your users are going to probably not be happy with you. Your app's not going to run as efficiently. The picture's just way too big. The file size is huge, causing maybe some lag in your programs and stuff like that. So that's what we're going to do, is we're going to decrease those to smaller sizes. Let me go ahead and show you real quick. Again, we'll eventually get to this. This is in GIMP itself. I'm going to load this up. And let's see if she's going to load up. And there's my pumpkin here, you guys. And I am going to scroll in. Let me go ahead and full screen this. And I'm using my control key on the keyboard and my mouse to scroll in. I'm trying to get into the stems pixels. And look at those. Here they start to form. You can see them as I really dive deep into the pixels. Each one of these squares, you guys. Now this is a JPEG image here. And I haven't edited it yet to be a PNG, so this has red, green, and blue right now. All right, so a little bit of red, a little bit of green, a little bit of blue. Or again, you may take some of those colors out. Maybe there's no blue in this one, it's just red and green, but it still has 8 bits of data for that blue, which if you knew binary would have zeros across the board. Anywho, these are what we're going to be editing. And as you can see, I have all of these little pixels. You guys have blown this up. If you look in the bottom left-hand corner, 25,000%. Let me go down to take a look at this picture at 550%. You can still see pixels, if you will. Very small pixels, but they're still there. Let me go down to, this is its original size. This is at 100%. You really don't see those pixels. It's a little bit more clear now. Let me go down to maybe even 50%. This is 50% of its original size. And again, the image is pretty clear. Again, you can start to see these gray and light gray, darker gray and light gray. This is your alpha channel. This is eventually, when we save this as a PNG, this is going to add that other bit of information, other byte, excuse me, taking us to 32 bits of data because we have an alpha channel in here. But I haven't saved it yet. This is just me editing it in GIMP. As you saw, the image that I did show you, that did have that extra alpha channel, or the extra byte. But kind of cool, you guys. Pixels are kind of cool. I think they're really cool. Let me get into my orange. Very hard to see. I'm sure it's very difficult for you to see with it being the difference of oranges, but you can see you've got maybe some darker oranges over here, some lighter oranges over here. Kind of cool that make a picture look as clear as they do. So, all right, you guys, our next tutorials are actually us diving into the program GIMP to kind of get into what we're going to do for our projects.